Well, the Carter Doctrine, Matt.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Talk about a legacy. Yeah.
okay, go for it.
Well, Carter Doctrine in regards to the Persian Gulf, like
Yeah.
establishing the Persian Gulf as an American national security strategic interest. And Carter actually creates what's called the Quick Reaction Force, which becomes Central Command. And the idea being this: the United States is not just saying that the Persian Gulf is a strategic interest of ours, we are going to act on it, that we are going to have troops present and prepare as well as prepared to go to war there, and that we will by force ensure that the Persian Gulf is an American lake. And this, of course, is juxtaposed against what occurs with Iran. But the Carter Doctrine begins before the revolution in many ways in Iran. So this is when Iran is still an ally. It's this determination that this is going to be an American priority. This is going to be a national security emphasis for the United States, and we're going to put the forces there to make sure. And of course, everything that builds out from that. In around 2010 or so, Princeton University puts out a study, and it shows that from Carter's administration through maybe it was later than 2010, through the first administration of Barack Obama, the United States had spent $10 trillion just in the Persian Gulf region, policing the Persian Gulf region. Now, of course, that includes the first Iraq War, the second Iraq War, et cetera. But just the emphasis put on that. And of course, you have from there the tragedies, the horrors of what that actually means. First and foremost is the Iran-Iraq War, which, there's a lot of controversy over what role the United States played in creating that war. Certainly later on, it's clear that the Iran-Iraq War was an American proxy war, that the United States
Right.
favored Iraq and did everything it could to help Iraq in that war.
Yeah.
But even if you go, within the region, certainly the Iranians, but in many Arab countries, the understanding is that the Carter administration gave Iraq the thumbs up to do it. And there are American diplomats who say as well, Al Haig, Reagan's Secretary of State, the most famous. He made this allegation, and then, but also too, someone like who I respect and I honestly believe, Ambassador Chaz Freeman has also said that he saw documentation that made it not that the United States gave a green light. Not that Brzezinski high-fived Saddam and was like, go for it, man. It was more of like there wasn't a red light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, setting conditions. So what occurs 10 years later in 1990 when April Glaspie, the American ambassador to Iraq, goes in and meets with the Iraqi leadership. I can't remember if she met directly with Saddam Hussein. I think she did. But, essentially the Iraqis say, we have these issues with Kuwait. We've gone through everything we can. We're, in diplomatic language, saying clearly, we're going to invade Kuwait. Like, in terms of diplomatic use, the language used by the Iraqis, it's clear we're invading Kuwait. If you're a diplomat, you don't understand what they're saying. Well, that makes you an American diplomat, probably. But Glaspie then says to Ambassador Glaspie then says to the Iraqis, the United States government takes no position on intra-Arab affairs, right? Which is, again, not giving them a green light, but she didn't give them a red light. And this is, I think, why that, again, if that's the case of what happens in 1980, and with the hostage crisis going on, the loss of America's ally in Iran, right, and everything, of course, is colored in the fashion that Iran is now going to fall underneath the Soviet spear, which historically is absolutely laughable. That somehow the Russians and the Iranians will be allies. But American foreign policy has now made that a present day reality, right? But
Exactly.
which is amazing. It's incredible. But this I the not giving a red light to the Iraqis, then if that's what occurred, this awful, horrible Iran-Iraq war, 1 million dead, sucks the United States. It's already there through the QRF, which became the Central Command, right? The Carter Doctrine, and now the United States is engaging engaged in combat at times in Iraq. And people remember in the 80s, the tanker wars where the United States reflags all the tankers going through the Gulf. And then, we lost American sailors there. We shot down a civilian airliner, up until this past year with the red battles in the Red Sea against the Yemenis. Um, the in 1987, I think it was, or 88, the American Navy fights its largest battle at sea against the Iranians since the Second World War. It's been surpassed now by what's occurring in the Red Sea. Something the United States Navy was really happy to triumph, by the way, a year ago as it started. And a couple months later, this is the greatest naval expedition, greatest naval battle for the American Navy since World War II. They don't say that so much anymore because it's it's a defeat. Right. Yeah. It's essentially the Yemenis still are maintaining control of the Red Sea to a degree where at least half of the traffic that would normally transit the Red Sea no longer does. And the Israeli port in Eilat, their southern port on the Red Sea next to Aqaba, that went bankrupt 6 months ago, 8 months ago, again, the Carter Doctrine, it sets a lot of this in motion, right? It provides the structure, it provides the presence of the American troops, the policy commitments, but then it also too, which is so important, it sets the mindset for Washington D.C. and the establishment, where everything is geared towards the Persian Gulf. This of course comes to fruition with the George W. Bush administration, right? But you certainly see that as well, of course, George H.W. Bush throughout the Barack Obama administration. It's first and foremost for the Trump administration. Biden's legacy, of course, is the genocide in Palestine and Gaza. What the Carter Doctrine does, and the fact that the Iranian hostage crisis is tied into that, it establishes a mindset that dominates American foreign policy thinking until now. So going on 46 years, 47 years, you have an understanding in Washington, D.C., among the foreign policy elite, the blob, that if we were to go there, guys, to D.C. and go to these think tanks and going to the congressional committees and walk to the Pentagon and go over to Langley and Foggy Bottom and meet with the NSC, okay, who's the top adversaries? Who are the top enemies for the United States? Instead, we had a time machine. We were able to do it like over the last 40 some odd years. Iran would often be number one. And it would always be in the top three. Sometimes it might be Iraq. Sometimes it might be Russia, China, Venezuela, Panama, whoever, right? But Iran would always has always been in that top three villains list. That isn't just like the common American understanding, because that then transcends down. Because I think if we were to go back and look at the public opinion polling that said like Gallup or Pew does, that who's the biggest threat in the world? Yeah, Iran is not number one all the time. Sometimes they are, but they're always going to be in that top three. Yeah. And so again, this is a legacy of Jimmy Carter.
And that's top three since the Ayatollah overthrew the Shah, right. Since the Shah was, because it was our Shah.
It was, and there's the the relationship between Carter and the Shah was strong. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember how far before he was overthrown. Not very far. Carter goes and gives big toast and everything, and the health of the American government's assessment is that the Shah's position is strong and it's healthy and everything, and yeah.
And there he goes.
And then after he's overthrown, we invite him here for his medical treatment.
Well, yeah, that's a huge part of that, right? Is the anger, right? The anger that rather than sending him back to be held accountable for his crimes, or even be kind of held in exile or abstention. And I think he had gone to Italy, if I remember right. It's kind of there. The Americans welcome him back and they're going to take care of him. And that anger among the Iranian people, it explodes.